Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I'll share how to access and decode Ebony game files, as well as share an Excel spreadsheet that has all the true stats of troops in the game. We'll uncover so much hidden data, I may change my name to Derek to Files.
YouTube channel Derek to Files.
On second thought, maybe not. Let's begin. Alright, first step is to plug your phone into your computer. Go to internal storage. Go to Android. Now, if you don't have an Android, you have an Apple, and you're already superior to us peasants, so I can't help you. Data. And we're going to search Evony. Files. Split configure. And this is where all the files with all the information you could ever ask for is located in Evony. Now, we're going to be looking at this army config file. And when you open it, you'll notice that it's pretty much unreadable. And this is what I was trying to get someone in Fiverr to do, is to decode this and make it so it's readable to the natural person. And after doing a lot of research, I found a website that does decode it. This is Online Protobuf Decoder. It's a phenomenal tool used for all these files. So I'm going to go ahead and say File, and I'm going to choose this Army config file and decode it. So here we have Army config bytes decoded. And when we take a look at this, we can determine some of these values. So here's troop name number 1. Here's a Chinese name for it. We can translate it later. And here's some values. Well, if you take a look closely, these are the base stats for a tier 1 ground troop. 100 attack, 300 defense, 600 HP, 50 range, 350 speed. When we go down here, this is going to tell you how much it costs to train. You can say 160 food, how long it takes. And these little hex values right here, these are the troop modifiers. So if I was to copy this and take it to a hex converter, it's 120. This is the additional damage a ground troop does to an archer, 20% more damage. Well, let's look at the next one. This is going to be mounted. And as you see, it does 30% less damage to a mounted troop. So this is how you could decode all of these. Now these little values right here, this is going to stay the same. So right here, E006, that's always going to be attack. So let's go to the next troop. This is troop 2, E006. That is associated with attack. So if you could figure out what this value is, you could change it for the values of all the additional troops. Now the way that this is laid out is Evony had the tier 1 through tier 10 troops first. Now when we get to tier 11, here's tier 10. Okay, so now this is troop 11. Now this is not going to be a ground tier 11. This is going to a different troop. This is now a ranged troop. This is the base stats for a tier 1 archer. And if we go ahead and translate this, slinger, again, it's a tier 1 archer. These are the base stats, again, 500 range, 100 speed. We could just translate this entire page. So now let's go down to mounted. Here's troop number 21. It's cavalry. And when you take a look at this, these are the base stats, except this is 300 speed, not 600. Again, this is the point I was trying to make in my last video. These are the true values that are in the game. Why it says 600, I have no idea. But the real value is 300. And let's take a look at siege. So that'd be 31, troop 31. Here we have troop number 31. Okay, catapult. And here's the base stats. That's the base stats of a tier 1 siege. 900 range, not 1,400, and 75 speed. Someone might say, well, what about the newer troops? Well, let's take a look at tier 16s. So here we have tier 16 ground. You can tell by the base stats, also the 350 speed. Let's take a look at tier 16 archer. Again, 500 range, 100 speed. And here's tier 16 cavalry. And again, it still says 300 speed. Now, we don't have tier 16 in sub-cities. And I know that was another concern, is maybe these are sub-city troop stats. They're not. These are the actual stats of the troops. 300 speed. Again, it has all these different values. And when we take a look at siege, and this was just a very poor translation, Here we have 76 speed for a tier 16 siege and a 1400 range. So I decoded these 6 months ago, and I brought them up to players Craw and MoonfireArt in the Evony Mechanics Discord. And they were able to obtain the schema for these and create an Excel spreadsheet that details the actual stats of all the troops. And that is what we have right here. So this is the Excel spreadsheet. This is going to have all the different values for everything that you could ever ask for troops. So again, I told you it's laid out tier 1 through tier 10. Tier 1 through tier 10. That's because tier 11 and tier 16, they came in way later, so they're in the bottom of the code. So let's take a look at what some values they have in here. So we have the base values: attack, defense, HP, range, speed, load, upkeep, all values that we could easily obtain in the game. Now, trap triggering, this is only going to apply to traps. So anything that says -1 does not apply to that troop. Like wall recover per second, it's not going to apply. Age, order, building type, building level, all this stuff is going to apply to what building level it has to be at, what order it is, and to train these troops, it's quite irrelevant. How much it costs to train the troops, right here, including the training time in seconds. Sub-city training time, now if these troops were training in a sub-city, this is how long it takes for them to train. The power, how much experience the generals get for killing them. Right here are all the modifiers. Now, not only do these troops have modifiers versus each other, they have modifiers versus monsters. For example, mounted actually don't do more damage to monsters than archers and ground. However, they just have more attack, so that's why they seem like they're the best. But in fact, ground and archers actually have a higher modifier to help them deal with monsters as well. Siege do too, but nobody uses siege for monsters. When we come down here, this is going to talk about different healing values. One of the ones that confused us a little bit was this castle speed, and we pretty much determined that this is something to do with how fast it takes to build your alliance city. So again, this has a lot of information. Whether or not it is useful, it's just up to you, but this is what the actual files say. Let's take a look at speed. So when we take a look, all the mounted are 300. We take a look at range, that's going to be the one that's going to change a lot, is all these siege are going to be 900 to 1000, 1100, and then it's going to go to tier 11 next, but we'll have to go down. The traps are 1500, we all knew that. Archer towers are 1500. I mean, that's how large the battlefield size is, so they can hit you any point, but they will go last. And then we get down to the tier 11s, tier 12s. Their information. So the ranges for tier 11 and tier 12 is 1200 right there. Then we're going to go down a little bit more. Tier 13s are 1400. And we're going to get down to tier 15. Now, when I obtained this Excel spreadsheet, tier 16 information wasn't out yet. And I can make a new one of these that will have the tier 16 information. But here we have a tier 15 siege, 76 speed, but again, 1400 range. So these have the updated stats. These are the true stats. And, with all this other information, it's hard to think that this is all just for sub-cities. Again, I'm going to leave a link of this Excel spreadsheet in the description below. You can thank MoonfireArt and Craw for doing a phenomenal job. This is all them. They deserve all the credit for this. Let's look at a different file. Decode. All right, so here's the monster config file decoded. And let's take a look at this. Well, the first monster, I could tell you that that's going to be a robber. And it's going to give you some various stats. I'd say let's take a look at a monster that is quite recent for us. Here's an Amit, however you say that, a B18. When we take a look at these values, 9807, that's going to be attack. 8007, that's going to be defense. 8807, that's going to be HP. Now these values look like they're the speed and range, and these are going to be different rewards that you get. Down here is the first down rewards. You get 10 million resources when you do the first down kill. What's interesting is these right here are your troop modifiers. Well, the monster troop modifiers when they attack your troops. But they'll do the same amount of damage to whatever troop they're attacking. So this is going to come into play when we're looking at something like a warlord. Okay, here's a warlord. You can tell if you do a translation to this. It's a weak warlord. It's going to be a level 1. See, value 1. And when we look down here at those modifiers, you'll see that it's 60 for ground and 150 for mounted. So it does more damage to mounted and does less damage to ground. So what's also interesting is let's look at a world boss. So here we have a world boss. You can tell by its enormous amount of HP. This is Lord of Lava. If I go ahead and translate all this, take a translate. Lava Lord, Siege Machine. So here we have the base stats, attack, defense, HP. And down here, again, we have the troop modifiers. So it does more damage to ground and mounted and less damage to archer and siege. Now, I'm not saying hit it with siege or whatnot, but I'm just saying that there are different modifiers. Another really interesting one is from the Maya event. So we look at Maya warriors right here. If we look at their modifiers, 300 for ground, 100 for archer, 190 for mounted, and 6 for siege. And now I get why everyone says siege is so strong in this event. Not that people play this event, but let's take a look at the next one. A Maya guard. Very similar. 7. I think Evony meant to put a 0 right here, and they forgot. So siege having an abnormally low attack modifier. Just something interesting that I'll let you guys know of. So yeah, this file has a ton of information from every single Viking to every resource box that you can get, Ares, fire spirits, all that stuff is in here. It's a massive amount of information. So let's take a look at another one. Here's a building level, and right now we're decoding it. And taking a look at this, we can determine what these values are. If it says field 1, value 1, that means whatever building this is building 1, and this is the level it is. The rest of it is going to tell you how much it costs to make. So here's probably the keep. To build the keep, you probably need these resources and this much speed, 5 minutes, because it's in seconds. So if we were to take a look at K45, for instance, we scroll down here. Here we have K32, K33, go down a little bit more, K44, and K45. This is how much food, lumber, or stone, and ore it costs. This is how much time it is in seconds. So you'd basically just divide that by 60, 60, 24 to get you how many days. But that is not even counting your construction speed. So be mindful of that. And this is how I was able to determine how many resources it took to make a K45 when K45 first came out. All right, let's do another one. This is extra buff configure. This is going to be a quick and easy one. It's going to show you exactly how easy some of these are to decode. I want to first translate this entire page to English. And when we take a look, cavalry HP increased. When attacking, cavalry HP increased. When defending, when attacking monsters, when reinforcing, when rallying, that's what this assembly is, rally. Cavalry load, single training limit. Like, when you take a look at this, what does it look like, right? These are the same values for your blazons. And when you actually take a look at these hex values, so let's go ahead and take this right here, copy it. We get 0.6, which is a level 1 blazon for HP increase. So that just shows you how easy some of these are to decode, and you can get a lot of information out of these. All right, let's do one more. Here are the general skill configure one. And this one is much more difficult to decipher and decode. That's because this could be right here 10%. 10% what? Defense, HP, attack, luck. It could be 10% anything. It's very difficult to determine what this was. And I only recently took a look at this file because I wanted to investigate the speed and range skill books a little bit more. So I spent a couple hours coming up with a strategy. Now what we could do is, knowing that this is going to be general skills, it's probably going to have the skill books in here. I can tell you right now, this 3,000 is how much a skill book would cost from the academy. So I went to look for a skill book that was a little bit different. And the skill book that I came up with was luck. So luck gives you an 18, gives you like an 18 instead of this 10. So what I did is I just went ahead and copied this. And I looked for one that had a value of 18. And there's only one. that has a value of 18. And right here is 4. So I was able to determine that this value right here is the skill book level 4. This is the value 18. For some reason, this is also the value right here. It's usually consistent. If this is 18, this is going to be 18, 20, or 20, 25, whatever. Some other ones that are kind of different. Right here, this value is telling you what category it's in. So it is a monster farming category. Level 1 would be military. Level 3 would be subsidy. And up here will tell you if it's a general or a skill book. So 1 would be general, 2 would be skill book. So this is 119. That's the buff type. 119 is luck. So let's take a look at luck. And we come down here and this says 1,800. That's just another way of saying 18%. So let's go ahead and look up this 119 value. So here we have a 3,000, a level 1 skill book, 3,000, 5%. Okay, that makes sense, a 5% for level 1 skill book. Here is 5,000. Okay, this is a level 2 skill book. It gives us 10%. Let's look at it next. Okay, here is a level 3 skill book. It's given us 15%. Costs 8,000 if you were to somehow buy it with gems. And let's look at the next one. This is 20. And it's not a skill book. There's no level for it. This is a 1, not a 2. So this is a general. This is a Cleopatra. She gives you 20% luck. And here's another one. Again, not a skill book. A general, 25%. And of course, it's bay bars. So this is how I was able to kind of determine what these values are. It's not like I actually know what these values initially are. You have to do some investigating and figuring it out. And this made complete sense. So once I was able to determine what some of these values are, I looked up range and speed. Here we have an archer range level 1 skill book. It says it gives you 25, but it only gives you 20. Now this is 3 off from what I said in my initial video, which I understand why. When I did my testing before the video, I verified it wasn't 25. And it could have been 20 when I did my test. In order to verify it's less than 20 or to verify the exact value, anything that's within accuracy of 5 units, you have to use Siege. And when you're using Siege, you have to use Siege with a various bracer level. And I did not have a bracer that had 11, 12, 13, 14% anymore. I couldn't obtain it. So I just went with old data. Well, the old data was done in a camp, in a tile camp. And tiles do not have the battlefield of 1,500. I don't know if the battlefield is based on the unit with the highest base range, but it varies in tile camps. However, in a keep, you always have your archer tower, so the battlefield is always 1,500. So I do apologize for being off. Even if it was only 3, it was something I should have verified prior. Anyway, if we look at the other levels of this, let's look at level 2. So this is level 2 skill book. It says 50, but it only gives you 40. Again, that's 5,000 gems. Level 3 says 75, but only gives you 60. And level 4 says 100, but only gives you 80. So I'll update that. That is something that I wish I looked at before I made my previous video. And here I was investigating speed skill books. So let's take a look at the next one. The next one is going to be Siege, and Siege is going to do the same thing. It says 200, but it only gives you 20. That was accurate, and Siege is a lot easier to test because Siege's range vary quite a bit. So I can do multiple tests to verify the exact number. These are speed skill books. They both say 20. So right here, 20, 20. I don't know which one would be ground or which one would be mounted. However, looking at this and comparing it to the other skill books, it looks like these would work, at least on the skill book sense. It does give you 20, and it doesn't give you a different value other than 20. And I've been taking a look at this for a long time, trying to figure out if it got turned off or turned on or something. And it makes me think that Evony has a bug somewhere when it calculates these battles where it's not introducing this 20% to ground or 20% to mounted speed. However, if Evony did fix the skill book to give your ground or mounted 20% extra speed, it's going to break the game. And I don't think players realize that. If your ground had 20% extra speed, if they have 420 speed altogether, they're going to run right past the tier 1 walls and start attacking archers. It's going to be pretty crazy if this is the case. And I wouldn't think that it would help defense out too much at all. It's probably going to be a hindrance to defense if these did work. So if Ebony fixes this, a lot of players are going to be upset because it's going to completely destroy people's defense and attacking plans. However, I will concede that if this is the speedbook itself is not broken. Something else inside of Ebony is broken. I want to make a video after this that's going to show a lot of evidence why speed books do not increase speed and why I don't recommend them. There are some players, and I do get this a lot. A lot of players do say, hey, this speed books did something, and I keep on investigating it. However, every test that I've done have not showed any measurable difference of a speed skill book. I mean, a 10% defense change makes a difference. However, speed books have not made a difference. So that's it for decoding. I know this has been a long video. Again, I'm going to have a link down below to access that troop file. However, feel free to make your own Excel spreadsheets on all this information. Figure out your own schemas. Figure out what these values are. And as a community, let's decode all these files. Let's get all this information out there so we can get the true values that Ebony has been hiding. Don't forget to like and subscribe to
Derek the Files YouTube channel.